Hey, good evening, everybody. Are you ready to network and learn? Let me give you a brief rundown of what we've got going on tonight on the agenda. First up, we have our welcome message, which we are listening to right now. Then we will have our breakout sessions, which is where we get to network, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. We will have our Kansas City Metro update around 6:30ish, and then our guest panel will start at 7. And we should be wrapping with presentations right about 8:30 so we can start Q&A. So let's take a little bit of a look at what the networking breakout sessions look like. This is while we start our virtual meetings. We have 3 different rounds of virtual networking sessions. They're about 9 minutes each. We break you up into groups of about 3 to 5 people. That gives everyone a chance to share their elevator pitch. And then when we get started, we're going to open the groups, and Zoom will give you a link where you can join the group. If you end up in a group where there's nobody there or you already know everybody, you can come back out to the main room and we'll reassign you. So are you ready to get started? All right, let's go. All right, everybody's coming back. Did everybody make some new connections and maybe meet a few people you haven't met before? Yes? Got some new faces? New contacts. If you shared your information within the networking breakout and you want to put it in the chat just in case somebody said, oh yeah, I really wanted to talk to that person, usually get 2 or 3 emails the next day saying, I talked to Kyle in the networking session and I need his phone number. I didn't write it down. Or I talked to Holly and what's her phone number? So be sure to put your contact information and a little bit of your elevator pitch in the chat and it will be saved. Before you leave tonight, you can always save the chat yourself. If you want to put notes in there and save it in the chat, that's welcome too. So welcome back, everybody. I want to welcome you to, what is this? The May MAREI meeting. We have a lot of new faces, a lot of faces we haven't seen in a long time. And we also have a lot of people that have been coming regularly for the past year. So we've been doing this for a little over a year. We're all experts at Zoom now, right? So if you want to find us online, a lot of stuff we talk about, everybody goes, okay, well, how do I find this guy? Or how do I find that guy? Or what was that about that meeting? If you go to our website, marei.org, you can find everything. Our secondary website that is our members only website is mareimember.com. So if you're a member and you log in there, you can access a lot of discounts and benefits that we'll talk about here in a second. And I want you all to write this down. Tuesday, July 13th, we should not be on Zoom. We should be in a room together, a real room with real chairs. And I don't know about food, and we're not really sure about social distancing and masks. According to Holiday Inn, they might have rules more stringent that fits the whole nation, just not Johnson County. So we will be abiding by county and state rules, and then whatever Holiday Inn tells us we have to do. So July 13th, it is also our vendor networking night. I wanted to give you some direction. A lot of people go, okay, where do I find a hard money lender? Where do I find the cabinet guy? Where do I find somebody to do windows? Who can do title that works with real estate investors? Who can help me with this? Who can help me with that? So go to marei.org. There's that website again. And click on business directory, and all of our business vendors, you will find their contact information in there. Great place to start. And it's also a great place to go if you're looking for somebody and what you're looking for isn't there. Call up some of the business vendors or email them and say, hey, you do a lot of this area. Do you have somebody to recommend? Because a lot of times I'm looking for a contractor type person and I can't find one, but I might call up my window supplier or my cabinet supplier and say, hey, do you have somebody you recommend? They might be able to help you out. Or, you know, whatever you're looking for, our business members have the pulse of the city. And here is all of our various business members. I hope I have everybody on here. I've gone through and edited it 4 times and I usually still have somebody missing. So if I'm missing you, please let me know. And I apologize. But I've tried to get everybody on here. They should all be on the marei.org site. And if you're wanting to get to know some of these investors, these business vendors, before we go live in July, We have interviewed quite a few of them on the partner cast. And not only we learn a little bit about their business and what they do, but we actually have an educational session. So like with Luke Olson with Olson Foundation, we sat down and learned what is a bad foundation and what do we need to look for. We also talked to Kevin with REI Black Book to learn how that can help us. We talked to Rick Davis about why we shouldn't be afraid to call an attorney. We learned about finding deals on MLS a little bit faster using Invest with Wendell. We've talked about co-living, and we have a replay from way back when, so don't laugh at it if you watch it. Contract to Close with Dave Green from Accurate Title. We recorded this way back when on GoToMeeting, if that's still in business. I'm not sure. We're all on Zoom now. We didn't have that back then, so we did a webinar. I don't even know that people do webinars anymore. We do Zooms. So that's from way back when in 2016. Everything he says is still accurate, except for I'm going to bet that a quiet title takes a little bit longer and costs a little bit more than it did in 2016. We've also learned about fireplaces, chimneys, and flues from Marge with Hearthmasters. We've learned about everything we need to know about windows with Jim White. And Julie Anderson did another one of those webinars with us a few years back on keeping your wholesales legal, and we're going to be sharing that again on the PartnerCast next week. So keep an eye out for those. So industry updates. I like to share a little bit about what's going on in the industry here in the Kansas City Metro, a little bit at each meeting, and I wanted to give you some updates. So the first update, I'm not going to go into all of the numbers from Heartland MLS. If you want to look at the actual data, you can write this down, kcrar.com, and you can find out all the data. But what I thought was interesting was last month's supply in March 2021 was 0.7, and today it's 0.8. So we've gained some inventory this month over last month. We got a few more listings or a few less sales. So Kyle's put the link to KCRER's media statistics. Thanks, Kyle. So if you wanted to get into the data, it's really detailed and a little bit more in depth than what I have here. And you can also zero in on different areas of the metro or different cities. So check that out. But what I wanted to talk about tonight, we have a special guest for. So how many people heard that the federal judge vacated the CDC eviction moratorium order? All heard that? Dale did.
Yep.
And did you do a little happy dance? I've heard some people posting on Facebook that, oh, yay, no more, we can do evictions now. There's no more CDC eviction moratorium. And I don't think that's quite the case. So I have asked our resident expert on all things eviction, attorney Julie Anderson, to join us. And I want to make sure, I'm sure she'll tell you this too, but I highly recommend to go to her website, mokslaw.com, and click on forms. She has a wealth of information to help you if you have renters, or if you are a renter, or you're wanting rental assistance in any way. So,
okay, great. Really quickly, I know I'm going to go very fast. I just want to make sure that everybody's up to speed on what is the CDC moratorium. September of last year, the Center for Disease Control entered a temporary order. So we're 9 months in now to this temporary order that is an eviction moratorium on all covered tenants. What is a covered tenant? So that's any tenant in a residential property that signs a declaration under the penalty of perjury. There's 7 elements to this. The true issue is that the courts are not really enforcing those 7 elements, but by law, they have to say they're using their best efforts to obtain all government assistance. They're making less than $99,000 a year. They're unable to pay their rent because of a substantial loss of income, loss of hours, out-of-pocket medical expenses, that they're trying to make partial payments towards their rent. And if they would be evicted, they'd be homeless. They acknowledge that their rent is still due, and that they're saying this under penalty of perjury. The truth of the matter is that these are being handed out like candy outside of the courthouse. And now, even within the last 2 weeks, we have some decisions that are pretty insulting for landlords. one thing I don't want people to lose hope on is that this CDC order, while it has been in place for 9 months, and I anticipate that it will be in place for several months in the future, it's set to expire in June. I do not think that we will see an expiration until almost October, but you can still evict tenants based on criminal activity. If they threaten the health or safety of other tenants or themselves or you, if they're damaging your property or posing any type of immediate risk of damage, if they're violating building codes, health ordinances, or any contractual obligation. So while I've been sitting in front of you for years saying like the contract matters, and I know everybody kind of wants to go to sleep, but that contract is probably more important than it's ever been before. I don't want landlords to lose all hope that this is an end all be all. I will say that if you just do not listen to me and do not acknowledge that this exists, there are penalties right now up to 1 year in prison for landlords that ignore this, and up to 1 year supervised release, and $250,000 in fines if your tenant should die, whether from COVID or any other violent crime. Probably we could be doubling that jail time and doubling those penalties. So not to try and scare you, I just want to let you know it's out there and it really does matter. And so we've got to pay attention to this. Right on April 19th, so just a few weeks ago, under President Biden, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who has never been involved whatsoever in housing or landlord business, came in and entered an interim rule, essentially saying that every manager of property, every management company, and every lawyer who's conducting evictions must provide every tenant with the following language. Attention, because of the global COVID-19 pandemic, you may be eligible for temporary protections from evictions under the laws of your state, territory, locality, or tribal area. And under federal law, you can learn more at the cfpb.gov/eviction, or you can call a 1-800 number. So again, this is one way in which the federal government has acknowledged that right now this CDC moratorium is under attack. They intend under this administration to enforce this, and they are putting a significant amount of money through a separate bureau in order to enforce this eviction moratorium. They also reinforce that even though the CARES Act has expired in March, that the eviction protections, meaning that 30-day notice for that 30-day notice for anybody who has a federally backed mortgage and has tenants, is still in place, or is kind of reinstated to the extent it wasn't. That was part of the extension from Congress of the additional unemployment protections. So the biggest question I'm getting right now is, oh my gosh, on May 5th, a federal court judge in Washington, D.C. said that the CDC does not have authority under the Public Health Service Act to impose this kind of global moratorium, or this moratorium all over the country on all landlords and all tenants. What a great ruling for landlords. But here's the truth. I mean, the truth is what the judge said, in that I don't think that the courts really have this role. Our political branches need to step in and determine. Congress needs to say who has these rights, and that's what the judge is saying. However, the plaintiff in that case was the Alabama Association of Realtors. Are you a member of the Alabama Association of Realtors? If you are not, you don't care. It doesn't matter who said this. It doesn't matter what they said. This ruling does not apply or extend beyond that particular plaintiff. This ruling in this case does not impact your case. This does not impact your property. This does not prohibit the application of the CDC to any parties outside of that party. So I know we want to celebrate. There's just really not a lot to celebrate there. Right now, we've had 6 federal courts take up the issue as to whether or not this is legal. 3 of them have determined that it is illegal. 3 of them have determined that it is legal. Will this make it to the Supreme Court in time? I don't know. I don't think so. when it comes to the way in which our courts respond to us, it's just not, we're not going to have a definitive answer. I just don't want people to start taking the law into their own hands. What I'm saying to you is that there's a $250,000 potential fine. And you just can't ignore this. The CDC order is still in place, but there are other reasons to evict tenants. So the biggest questions I'm getting really quickly, I'm going to just try and sum it up in 1 minute, is, are evictions still happening? Yes, we are evicting people based on lease violations, based on criminal activity, based on housing code violations. We're doing this every day. Can you evict? Even if you receive a CDC moratorium, like declaration, and this applies to you, you can still file a lawsuit and you can still get in line at the courthouse, and we're still moving forward. I do not want any landlord to feel like you are a victim. Yes, money is being taken from you. Yes, this is far more difficult than it's ever been before. And the penalties are larger, but there are ways in which we're still functioning through the court system legally. And the biggest topic right now are these assisted programs paying off? You know, we have $45 billion around the country in rental assistance. We are definitely seeing an uptick in these payments, but I have to tell you, you've got to read the fine print, and you need to know what you're signing up for. You're going to have to give up late fees sometimes. You're going to have to give up attorney's fees. You're going to have to give up your right to evict people, even if they're horrible people, if you take this money. So you've got to read that fine print. I really want to see some good non-waiver language. I'm writing articles frequently. My website is MO for Missouri, KS for Kansas, LAW for the law, mokslaw.com, under forms, under tenant resources. I'm throwing up on our website daily new tenant relief programs. The courts are contacting us. There's a lot of money out there. Just, we're going to have to decide what's the best program and the best fit for you. And again, you're just going to have to landlord really hard. You're going to have to look at tenants' behavior. We're still actively challenging these declarations if people are lying. You know, I've got tenants who are on vacation in Hawaii right now. I'm putting that evidence in. You do not qualify for protection if you're on vacation in Hawaii, and that's why you need a continuance. We just have to be as reasonable as we can. Okay. I'm sorry if I went too long.
Great, Julie, and I want to thank you for jumping on. She did this in short notice. I asked her like this morning, could she be on the meeting tonight? So thank you for joining us short notice. And we're going to try to get together and dive a little bit deeper in a couple weeks when you're not teaching the class.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to encourage everybody that is here in Kansas City or invests here in Kansas City that if you're not a member of MAREI, to please check out memberships from anywhere from $25 a month or $99 a year. You can access our monthly meetings. You can come to our monthly meetings. You can grab the replays. You can join us on our networking roundtables. And we do a lot of advocacy on your behalf. We just got a lot of things going on. So what are some of them? We've got upcoming events. I just wanted to get this out there. We network right now. It's every Friday at 8:45. We may be adjusting that. I'm thinking we might take that to some of them in the evening and some of them during the day, but we're still looking at when that'll change. But for right now, 8:45 every Friday morning for members. And then next month, because the market is so tight, we're bringing in an expert on the hidden market. So if you're tired of chasing deals on MLS or doing those bidding wars with everybody, Tony's going to show you how to find the hidden market, which is basically people with a problem that you've got to solve. He's also going to help you figure out how to solve those problems. And then he's also doing a full day class on Saturday, June 19th. And then for those of you that weren't on earlier, mark your calendars for July 13th. You're going to need car keys to come to this meeting. You're going to need pants. You might need a mask. We're not sure, but you're going to have to come join us. It is a networking meeting, so there is no meeting to record and broadcast. It is our vendor night, and it is also on our benefit for harvesters. And I'm asking everybody to dig deep this year so we can support harvesters, because we didn't support them last year. We had no meeting, and I couldn't quite figure out how to do a networking and a charity event on Zoom. I hadn't quite figured Zoom out yet. So we missed them last year. So we're going to try to take our $5,000 goal and double it. So if anybody wants to donate to Harvesters, it's marei.org/harvesters. Our guests, we're going to ask for a $10 donation at the door, and our business members and our vendors it'll be $150 a table. And all proceeds go directly to Harvesters. There's no middleman. I'm not taking any fees out. It's going straight to Harvesters. All right, what else we got going? So I stole this slide directly from Jeff Watson's presentation because his slide was better than mine. This presentation is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter covered. It is provided with the understanding that the presenter is not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional advice. If legal advice or other expert professional assistance is required, the services of a competent, make sure it's competent, professional person should be sought. I love the slide, Jeff, much better than mine. I just tell everybody to do due diligence and to consult an expert. So this is better. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I have a little bit of information I wanted to share here. So what's going on out there in the real estate world? Laws are a-changing. And why are they changing? They've been changing for a while, but probably the biggest reason are consumers are getting screwed. Realtors are quite upset that there are people acting as realtors without a license. They went through the time and money to get a license, and then there's just the wild, wild west. People are out there making commissions or calling it something else, but it's the same. Other investors are getting fed up, and the regulators are getting fed up. So they're all saying, okay, we got to change things. And I don't know about you, I'm a little weird. I go out and I look at my competitors' reviews on websites like Yelp, Google, Facebook. And one of the bigger wholesalers here in town had some lovely reviews. And there were some others I pulled for some other wholesaler websites across the country. But if you take a look at some of them, it's not that they're causing the problem. It's just they got a more visible website out there because they're actively seeking reviews. So they're getting the complaints where the rest of the people that are working under the radar don't. So on this one, the seller said, we settled on a fair price for both of us and signed the docs. And on the day of closing, they called to say we need to negotiate a lower price due to the roof. And the seller explained, I have a contract and it's day number 8 after signing. They completely refused to close and totally blew me off. So we have a lot of people out there, not just wholesalers, that are getting houses under contract and then at the very last minute wanting the price changed or not closing because of whatever and not following their contract. And then this one, again, signing a contract and backing out a few days later, or just being mean and offering a price up front and then changing your mind later. That's a big one. Another one was being high pressure to sign. This lady was meeting the wholesaler at the house on behalf of her husband. It was his inherited house, and the buyer wanted a contract, a decision signed right then and there. And then it went on to say that when she finally talked to her husband, he asked about closing costs, and she's like, well, there's no problem. They pay all closing costs. But yet when they asked, oh, no, we don't pay closing costs, despite it being all over their marketing. So a lot of false advertising out there. And then the other problem, how many people out there have a cell phone? My camera won't show it. Have a cell phone. How many people out there just don't answer the sucker? Because if you do, it's a telemarketer trying to robocall you. Or I have 3 calls that came in today. My phone never rang once. I just have voicemails. I'm sorry. I haven't listened to them yet either. You leave me a voicemail, but my phone doesn't ring. I'm probably not going to listen to it. So those consumers are complaining. Those laws are changing too. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then we have a lot of people that just don't know what they're doing, and we're going to get into it as we go through our different guests tonight. I've got a lot of different people that are experts on their area here. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do it kind of a TED Talk style. You're used to somebody doing a presentation all evening. We've got 5 speakers. And rather than taking Q&A where we usually go ditto, 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 no, we're going to do 5 different presentations on 5 different areas. They have about 15 minutes to do their presentation and take a little bit of Q&A if they want to. If they do a 10-minute presentation, we can do 5 minutes of Q&A. Otherwise, we'll take all questions at the end. Feel free to put your comments and questions in the chat. And our guests might have a presentation, or I might be interviewing them, and they might also have some links from further information, because some of this stuff is a little deep and they can't get it all in 15 minutes. If we were on a Walter Woodford IRA cruise, you'd get a 15-minute presentation, and then you were supposed to meet him at the bar later to get more information. We can't quite do that yet, so they will have some links for more information. So first up, my resident expert in the nation, I think, on wholesaling and real estate law is attorney Jeff Watson. He specializes in real estate and self-directed IRA law. He's also found quite often in DC lobbying on behalf of all of us. And you can also, I recommend getting on his newsletter at watsoninvested.com. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jeff, and let you share your screen.
Well, Kim, first of all, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Awesome, because you're running an absolutely amazing Zoom meeting. Your Zoom skills are they've zoomed way past mine, and I'm so impressed. Awesome.
Coaching.
Yeah, so now let's see if I can find out how to do this and share my screen, and hopefully it will do what I tell it to do. Oh, it is.
Yay.
It is. Yay. Okay. So we're going to talk about the state of wholesaling. All right. And no, we're not going to talk about the state of Kansas or the state of Missouri. We're going to talk about the state of wholesaling. And this presentation, Kim already read the slide. It's a great slide. One of my dear people that keeps me on the straight and narrow created it for me. All right. So a little bit about who I am, because not everybody on the call is already a friend or a client. I've got a bunch of friends and clients on this Zoom call, but not all 110 plus of you are. So I'm licensed in the state of Ohio. I'm actively working towards getting licensed in both Texas and the District of Columbia this year. I'm trying to. I've been working on it for 2 years now. I'm general counsel to a couple of companies you may have heard of, one of which is RealFlow out of Parma Heights, Ohio, National MAREI, which MAREI is a member of, Note School, and National Wealth Builders. In fact, I'm in Dallas right now. I have meetings with one of my clients, Note School, and one of their sub funds tomorrow. I'm also privileged to serve on the board of directors of Quest Trust. I've been a real estate investor myself for 27 years, and I'm a full-time practicing attorney. You probably know a little bit about me from wholesaling because I made this video with the assistance of National MAREI, created this video, and with the assistance of the Ohio Division of Real Estate under the Department of Commerce. This video has gone viral. That's all I'll tell you. Sheila and Kim were great. They're wonderful ladies, both smart attorneys. Had a chance to work with them, created a video on wholesaling. This video has been shown to regulators and investigators across the nation. I'll explain that more in a minute. This video, you can watch it. I know, Kim, you've made it available on your website. National MAREI has it available. It's available off of my blog, watsoninvested.com, and you can go to YouTube and just look for it, and you'll find it. It's probably one of the most watched videos on wholesaling that actually tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth without any sales pitch included. And no, you do not need your credit card in order to watch this video. But if you are studying to get a real estate license in the state of Ohio, you do have to watch this video. It's been incorporated in all the curriculum now and for real estate agents in training in Ohio. So, but I'm going to ask you this, folks. Have you ever heard of ARELO? It's the Association of Real Estate License Law Officials. Yes, I have met the people from Kansas. I have met the people from Missouri. I have met the people from multiple states. I have had the chance to network with them. They have watched some of the training that Kim and I did with the state of Ohio, and they use that to teach other investigators, other regulators from many other states on the legalities of wholesaling. So let me go back to this, okay? Watch this video. This video will tell you how the regulators and investigators in your state are being trained to view wholesaling. Okay? So wholesaling, every state has laws on it that have been on its books for decades on how real estate is to be both marketed and sold. The problem is the vast majority of wholesalers have never bothered to read those laws. The vast majority of wholesalers didn't even know those laws were there, because the vast majority of wholesalers never stopped by and sought counsel from a good attorney like Julie or somebody else, and they just never asked these questions. So if you're going to do this, the first thing I tell you to do is stop, look up the definition of a real estate broker in your state. Read that and determine, do you fit that definition? Because if you do, you should have a license. All right, so let's get into that. This is a slide that I lifted from a presentation given by one investigator from the state of Ohio to a national audience of investigators and regulators. This is what they don't like about wholesaling, is that they see people who are acting like a real estate agent who are not licensed. And you say, oh, but Jeff, I'm an investor. No, you're not. You're acting like a real estate agent. Why? Because you don't own the house, and yet you act like you are selling your house. You act like you own and control the house that you're selling, and you don't own it. That is a problem. Okay? Some more slides from them. They show, see, how you get paid to be the middleman. Getting paid to be the middleman, where you are not the owner of the property, you never became the owner of the property, and you never had the intent or capacity to become the owner of the property, yet you're still trying to get paid for being in the middle, is illegal in all 50 states that I have read the statutes on. Okay, so I don't care if you've got a wholesaling system or if you're just trying to get paid by the middleman or what it is, these are no-nos. These are slides that they have seen. These are slides that they actually got by going to live guru events and taking the pictures. Ask me how I know. That guru had to become a client of mine to get out of trouble. Okay, a couple more slides. See how they sign the contract on the property, actively market the house to get the buyers, locate the buyer, close on the sale. Or this one, even worse, even more pernicious, to use a big word, reverse wholesaling. Completely illegal. I'm sorry. I don't care whose toes I'm stepping on or stomping on. Reverse wholesaling is illegal. Somebody may disagree with me. I'll quote you the laws and show you why you're wrong. Because here's what happens. Most of the states follow a language where they say, under the definition of a real estate broker, who, for another, for a fee, engages in real estate activity. And you're going to say, well, wait a second. What does this mean? Well, let me break it down for you. Who? That would be you, Mr. Wholesaler. That would be you, Ms. Investor. That would be you, the couple that wants to work together to change their financial trajectory by wholesaling real estate. For another, that phrase means for the actual owner of record of a property. So that means that the wholesaler, that means the investor, they don't own the property, but they're actively marketing the property. Well, you say, well, Jeff, how am I actively marketing the property? Let's see, you're showing pictures of it. You're publishing descriptions of it. You're giving out the address of it. You're describing what it looks like and where it's located. That's marketing the property, and you don't own the property. But you're trying to do it for the effort of making a fee, of making money, of making a profit, of getting a financial benefit for it. That is a violation of the law. So, a common way that state license law is violated when wholesaling is by marketing a house that you do not own. If you buy the house and then you market it, perfect. If you buy the house, close on it, enter into another contract to sell it, fantastic. If you buy the house and you have the intent and capacity to buy the house and you close on it and then you resell it, I'm going to tell you straight up right now, when you double close, regulators will let you do that. They will let you double close all day long. What gets their attention, what makes them angry, is when they see people tie up properties and never close on them. when they tie up properties, when they get things under contract, and then they don't close. It's just like Kim knew what I was going to tell you, because she had the same complaints in what she was listing. Okay, people put stuff under contract and then they don't perform. That ticks off regulators. But worse yet is acting like you own the house, or acting like you're the real estate agent marketing the house, but you're not the owner of the house. No nos. Let me give you a real quick hit list. Here are 4 things that you should not do. Bird dogging is illegal. Co-wholesaling is illegal. Unwritten, undocumented joint ventures are illegal. Both people need to be putting up the earnest money in order for that joint venture to be legal. And reverse wholesaling is illegal. Advertising houses for sale that you do not own in order to figure out what the market wants is a very bad idea. All right. Now, there's that statute again. I'm going to put it up here again because, folks, I know I'm going rapid fire machine gun. I will be hanging around after everybody else's presentation and join them in answering questions. But, folks, when you are advertising somebody else's house for sale in an effort to put money in your pocket, you're actively engaged in real estate activity. You need to be an agent, realtor, licensee, or broker. Period. End of story. Now, but somebody's going to come back to me and go, oh, but Jeff, I've got a contract on the property. Therefore, I have equitable title. Therefore, I'm allowed to sell the house. Wrong. Okay, first of all, your alleged equitable title, is it vested or incohate? Incohate, by the way, means not completely formed or not yet developed. Why? Do you have the money in escrow to close? Have you removed all the contingencies to where you're ready to close? Are you ready, willing, and able to perform? Do you have all your ducks in order? Do you have all your ducks in a row? Are you ready to close? Then maybe you do have an equitable interest in the property, or you have a contractual interest in the property. Fantastic. Are you marketing just the contractual interest? Hey, it is legal. Let me say this again. It is legal. Let me give you that glimmer of hope one more time. It is legal to advertise a contract for sale, but make sure it's a valid contract. Now you're going to say, well, Jeff, what's the sign of a valid contract? Well, do you have the intent and capacity to perform, or did you enter into the contract under fraudulent purposes? Did you put a property under contract that you have absolutely no intent, no capacity, no ability in order to buy it, but yet you went ahead and signed an agreement to buy it? That's not really a valid contract because you entered into it with a deceitful purpose. You didn't actually intend to buy it. See, this is language that this investigator pulled out of contracts that float around on the internet being used by wholesalers. Now, this is language that really annoys me, because this is language that was literally ripped off and stolen from one of my documents that I wrote back in 2007. And it was designed to be only used in the existence of a short sale where all parties were represented by agents, and we had the consent of the agents to do this. But no, somebody decided to take that language and slap it in their wholesaling contract, thinking, oh, if I put it in the contract, I can just overlook state law. Every lawyer will tell you, you cannot contractually agree to break state law. Okay? And oh, by the way, here's another goodie. This is another document that's been floating around for a long time. Seller understands that buyer's intention is to find an end buyer and assign this option agreement to the end buyer for a fee. Well, then you don't even have a valid option agreement. If buyer does not acquire an end buyer to sign this deal within 30 days, acceptance of this option agreement, this agreement becomes null and void. Well, it never was really valid because you really don't have the ability to go ahead and do this because, by the way, marketing an option is entering into real estate broker territory all over again. Now, that's the end of my slideshow. I'll leave this one up. Now, Kim, I don't know. I know I went fast, but I know you were recording this. And so people can slow me down on the recording because I highly recommend that they come back and listen, not just to me, but to everybody else who's going to come after me. Because I'm going to tell you what, folks, they're probably better than I am. And they got stuff that you're going to want to hear and you're going to need to know. So with that, I don't know if I have any time left now, Kim, but I'll yield it all back to you. Peace.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad you're going to stick around for questions. I'm trying to write them down as we go. So we're going to move on. Our next up is a Dan Reedy, and I know he's here. All right, so next up is Dan Reedy. And I asked him, if you don't know Dan, he has been around the real estate industry. He says since 2005. I say that's about when I first started hearing him on the radio. He had a real estate radio show here in Kansas City, and he has fallen into the area of helping people with big portfolios buy houses to build out their portfolio. So he at one time acted primarily as a wholesaler doing that. I know I myself have met him at a house a few times, and we fought over deals. We had to outbid him and he had to outbid me, and I would go look and, oh man, Dan got the house, or he probably looked up and said, oh, Kim and Don got the house. So he's been out there doing deals since 2005. He is a licensed agent, and I wanted his input on how other investors see what wholesalers are doing, what they're doing wrong, and what he wishes they would do right. So I will stop sharing, and Dan, you can share a screen if you want to, or you can just chat with us.
I'll just chat. I have nothing to share, so except my good looks. So like she said, I've literally bought and sold a few thousand houses since 2005, primarily deal with investors worldwide. The last few years, I've been primarily just buying houses to sell to my investor database that I've developed over the last 15 years. So I'm pretty much filling orders. So I'm doing a lot of interaction with wholesalers, and I like Kim's website because in order to put a property for sale on Kim's website, you have to be in control of the deal. You have to have the address. You have to have the price. You have to have information to share. So that's great for me because I don't want to waste my time or the wholesaler's time. So the more information I get up front, I've done enough of these that subject to a walkthrough, I'll say, you know what, I'll take that house. If the pictures are exactly like you say, if those are accurate pictures and there's enough information there, then the walkthrough is just to make sure a meteor hasn't fallen through it or they haven't given us pictures of somebody else's house. I've literally dealt with a guy that had a 12-plex down on Linwood and took pictures of the one next door that was finished and occupied for the one he had that was gutted to get a $600,000 loan through Gold Bank. So it can be done. So, but information is great. And if you're scared to give out the proper information, then you're not a very good wholesaler or you have no legitimacy to me if you're scared to give out much information. If you truly have a contract on the property, then nobody can backdoor you and get that property if you truly have control of that contract. So when I walk through a property, if I'm going to sell it to somebody else, I take 50, 60, 70 pictures. And I take the general pictures of the front and the rooms and that type of stuff, but everything that needs attention that I'm going to touch during a rehab, the painted steps, a cracked wall, a non-GFI in a bathroom. There's the pictures tell the story through the walkthrough. And when I post a property, which I don't do very often on Kim's site anymore because I've got buyers lined up, but when I post that property, I say there's 60, 70 pictures on there. Here's a full description. I'm not going to tell you what I think the ARV is. I might have a link to the MLS, and but it's going to show the $50,000 ones and it's going to show the $150,000 because I don't know what your ARV is going to be. As a wholesaler, when you tell me what my ARV is going to be, you don't know how much I'm spending on the rehab. You don't know what my exit strategy is, etc. When you tell me how much the rehab is, I don't believe you because you don't know what rehab I'm going to do. So as a buyer, I don't want anybody to tell me how much the rehab is or what the ARV is. I'll figure that out myself. And if I'm not smart enough to figure that out myself, I shouldn't be buying properties without guidance. So to give yourself legitimacy, and I think I've bought 55 or 60 houses already this year. So and I've bought a lot of those from the same people. I'm a recurring client for a lot of the groups around that find properties. And and I always close. It's, so I have legitimacy with them and they have legitimacy with me because they give me the right information. They let me make a decision. I walk through it. And if I say, I'll take the house, they know it's 100% chance it's going to close on my side. We're losing a lot of deals right now to title work, tax liens, not tax liens, but tax sale properties. And that'll probably be a subject that Kim can cover. But tax sale properties are tough to sell to somebody else and get a title policy. So, but information is key. And I don't know how many people out there are buying or selling, but when you post something on Facebook or the social media, because that's where I get a lot of my leads, who's buying houses in Johnson County? Well, no shit. We're all buying houses in Johnson County if the price is right. Yeah. Do I have any buyers in Overland Park, or do I have any buyers in Lee Summit? Yeah. So basically, my perception of that person is they're just generating an opportunity to pick up email addresses to market to later. So if you had a property for sale, just put it out there, put the address, put the price, take enough pictures, and then, because if you look at my postings, when I post a property, I'm like, I want an email inquiry only. Here's all the pictures. You got to be able to be 95% before you need to walk through it. I see the same people respond on social media. Great. When can I see it? When can I see it? When can I see it? I'm always interested. I know they're not buying a house a month, much less 10, 20, or 30, but they want to walk through every property and get information on everything. And or they'll send me the email, hey, send me some more information on this. And I said, I've sent you everything. I've all the pictures, all the description. I don't know what else to tell you. It's all in the ad. It's all there. So, and I think Kim can, and there's a handful of people that do a great job marketing properties. Kim, do you have anything to add to that, or anything that I didn't cover?
I'm trying to take notes in the background here.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that when you market a property that you put everything out there.
Oh, absolutely. Here's how it's been in the family. This is a rental property. They've got a problem tenant, or this was grandma's house, been in the family for 40 years. And I had one in Kansas City, Kansas that I put, I don't know if this is a deal or not, that there's not really any good comps, but there's a lot of neat stuff around it that have a lot of value. And so look at it and see what you think, and ended up being, worth it got into a bidding war because I priced it down because I didn't feel comfortable enough to say, I think this is a great deal on this property. This is a no-brainer. Somebody else needed to look at that and make that determination. So.
And then there's a correlation there that you need to look at, because you say that you put all your information out there. You're not hiding the bad. You're sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly about the house so they can make an informed decision. But you're also trying to build up buyer clientele that will buy from you over and over and over again, which obviously you have. So by being honest, upfront, and transparent, that's allowed you to be what? The number one real estate agent for
2018, I was the number one agent in the state of Missouri for transactions and number 57 in the nation for MLS real estate transactions, not just for my brokerage, for all agents, according to the Wall Street Journal. So if I wasn't, I was pretty darn close, and somebody didn't report their numbers. So,
but you built up your clientele by being honest and transparent with the deals you were doing.
No, absolutely. And maybe I'm bragging, but I've got a fellow right now that if he was on this Zoom meeting and I saw his picture, I wouldn't know who he was if his name wasn't there. But he says I've sold him 60, 70, 80 houses over the last 10 or 12 years. And we've never met. He's never seen a property in person. He's referred me to multiple other clients that buy properties from me sight unseen. And it's because I say, this is a deal. And if I tell you it's a deal, they're like, send me the contract, I'll send the money. Because after 2 or 3, they pretty well know if you're going to screw them or not. After 50, 60, 70, and sending me lots of referrals. It's because, and I'm not always right, and I don't know, and I've made a bunch of mistakes, but I'm the first guy to say, hey, I screwed this up. The rehab's going to be more, but I told you how much it was going to be. So I ate the difference, because they're relying on me to be their eyes and ears. And for me to tell them, hey, the rehab is going to be 20,000 and here's what it's going to do. If the rehab ends up being 30,000, then I've just screwed them because I didn't give them enough information up front. So, have I had to eat, money on rehabs? Absolutely. But there's times that, I came out a little ahead on a rehab that I overestimated. So it's generally the unforeseen. You know what? We didn't snake the drains and the damn, sewer line was collapsed, or, the water line was rotted out in the middle of the yard. It's that type of stuff that.
So here's the
That'll catch
question, Dan. You are primarily acting as an agent anymore. You're used to wholesale a lot, but Jeff is talking about how Jeff was telling us how laws are changing, and there's a lot of people on our call that have only been investing for the last 2 or 3 years. So they don't remember back in 2007, 2008. And I remember we've done deals. I've done deals with you where I was contracting with the seller. I was wholesaling it to you, and you were wholesaling it to the end buyer, and the end buyer was paying for everything. But
yeah, it was a simultaneous close. It was it sounds silly because it hadn't been that long a year, but it was a little wilder and woolly, but there wasn't as many people doing it. And there wasn't the shysters screwing people. When Kim Tucker put one under contract and sold it to me, if she didn't sell it to me, she wasn't backing out of that contract. What Jeff Watson said is 100% accurate. I've been, since 2006, A+ rated in the Better Business Bureau with 0 complaints ever. And I've sold to investors. I've bought houses from thousands of people, whatever it is. I've done a lot of business. So, and I haven't done everything, not on purpose, but sometimes you stub your toe. But it's when you lie to people and their way that they've got to sell this house to accomplish the next phase of their life, whether it's putting mom in a nursing home or buy their other property. When you don't close on that property, that puts them in a huge bind. And, it's going to change every wholesaler's world because of the people that aren't performing as advertised.
And then Jeff also mentioned, he was talking about you can't advertise houses that you don't own. But as a wholesaler, if you have your own internal private client list, you can call them up and they can buy the house and you've never marketed it to anybody. So
no, and because I'm an agent and a broker, then I take a fee for that. Now, what you have to be careful with that he didn't mention, and I guarantee it's in there, but if you're an agent or a broker and you're wholesaling and you treat it like a net listing, and net listing is where Kim Tucker is going to sell me a house for 20,000. She knows I'm buying it to resell to my investor, but I get to keep what's left over. So if I make 5, my commission's 5. If I make 10, my commission's 10. So as an agent broker, you have to be careful not to fall into the net listing trap, which is very illegal also. So.
And then you also mentioned $5,000 commission or $10,000 commission. A lot of our wholesalers and people out there that are not agents, or even our agents, don't realize this. A real estate commission is not 6%. A real estate commission is what? Whatever you negotiate, correct?
Absolutely. And that world's going to change really quick too. When I see agents that say, I won't negotiate off 6% and, I'll pass a deal, or it's 6%'s the rule. That is what the national attorney generals are coming after us for, is basically collusion. Every agent says we won't take less than 6%. Well, we have colluded to not negotiate that fee. That is a completely 100% negotiable fee. I've sold houses to make the deal together. I've made $500 when I could have made 3,000, but I reduced my fee because the seller needed to sell, the buyer needed to buy. It was $500 I didn't have, and everybody was happy. The co-op agents like me, because I don't,
But on the flip side of that, what if you're selling a $20,000 house? Could you not write a listing contract with the seller and say, I will sell it, or with the buyer, and get paid a flat fee of $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, which could be
Do it
25.
all the time. Yeah. I mean, you get a $10,000 listing, and when I tell my clients, somebody's not going to do this for $300. I mean, legally they can't walk around your listing because of commission, but it happens every day. So it needs to be at least a minimum of $1,500 aside on the stuff that's used to be 10,000, is probably 35,000 today, but still 3%. You need to get it. You need to motivate that other agent out there. So you can definitely do. I mean, there's flat fee guys making tons of money, but then they get paid up front. Okay, we're going to market, we're going to do all this stuff, but we do it for $2,500. You got a $300,000 house, we're still $2,500 because it really takes the same effort, but they get paid up front. So.
All right, well, cool. Well, I want to thank you for your input. Can you stick around and take questions at about 8:15, 8:30-ish?
Absolutely.
All right.
I might take a bathroom break, but I'll be back.
Well, that's okay. We can let you do that. I am going to thank you for joining us, and I'll see you back for questions here in a little while. And I will share my screen. I want to move on to our next person. He is also a local real estate investor, James Dunwoody. He has been around since, according to his LinkedIn profile, he's been investing since 2012, but I'm going to guess it's been a little bit longer because I seem to remember running into him. He has wholesaled, he has flipped, he has managed properties. You can find his website at nextlevelproperties.com. And I have a few questions for him. He's kind of going to give us, for our new wholesalers out there, or people just getting started in real estate. All right, James, thank you for joining us. Can you first kind of tell us a little bit about what it is you do in real estate? So we know I was just pulling stuff off of LinkedIn and Facebook for a bio for you. So I'll let you share with us.
Yeah, so I mean, I primarily wholesale. To me, that's the part that, I do marketing to get deals to purchase, but, I try to monetize all those leads that come in and wholesale them. So that's my primary thing. And then, I do a lot of seller finance deals that I'll purchase for my own hold. I do flips as well. And then I have rentals. I haven't been doing as much flips lately just because I don't prefer to deal with contractors. I haven't figured that part out yet, but yeah, I mean, my bread and butter is wholesaling.
All right, well, cool. I've got to pull up my questions here. So, well, let's get to you. I got to get the right thing. So how did you get started in real estate? I think, a lot of people are out there watching all these videos on the internet that say, oh, buy my product and use my product and you'll be this fabulous wholesaler, but they have no idea how to actually wholesale. So how did you get started?
So I got started, mine was a little bit different. I wasn't actively trying to be in real estate or wholesaling. I was trying to help investors with cleaning properties out and property preservation stuff for REO companies and property management companies. And, my thing was just trying to reach out to investors on Craigslist and try to find people who had homes for rent or for sale. And so what I would do is just contact a lot of them while I was doing another job and see if they had any interest in, or if they were doing the work themselves or if they outsourced it. And knowing that they didn't, most people didn't want it to be sold over the phone or anything. I would basically just send them an email and tell them a little bit about myself. And I kept running into Christoph Becker. And so this is when he was getting started. And I kept telling him to clean the properties out because they were, ones that he was trying to wholesale. And, he never wanted to do it. And he eventually did, and it helped him sell. So he asked if I would take pictures for him on some of the properties and view them because he was out of town. And so I started doing that and just asking questions and, was looking at a lot of properties for him. And so I eventually just said, hey, look, if I find you deals, can I get a And he said, yeah. So I just started finding properties on Craigslist and, I didn't really know much about it. I was just, calling everybody up and talking to them, asking questions and had no idea what I was doing. I kind of would get information about the property, get pictures, send them to him. And then he would contact them and make offers and stuff. And then I would just get a percentage of the profit. So that's kind of how I got started. I just kind of fell into it by accident. And, once I started getting a couple checks, I kind of said, screw the other stuff, and started trying to do that more full time, and been doing that since 2010, actually. So
you got your start working with somebody else that was already out there doing it. And you kind of, I know you pretty much worked solely with Christoph, and you weren't his employee or his partner, but unofficially you were his partner of sorts.
Yep.
We did that with our son here in our office. That's how he got his start. He came in and answered the phones for us and went out and looked at deals, but he wasn't really our employee. He was our unofficial partner. So that's how we got started as well. So if you were just getting started right now as a real estate investor or as a wholesaler, what would you advise yourself to do? I mean, what would you say would be some things you might need to learn, some tools you really need, not just, the gurus out there, you need every tool known to man, but what tools do you need and what do you really need to know to get started in wholesaling?
I think, definitely understanding the law and some of the stuff that Jeff was talking about, I think is important. Being able to have the means to close on the properties is definitely important. You don't have to personally have the means, but I think, there's plenty of hard money lenders and private lenders that you can find in these groups. You can do a Google search and find them locally. I think, just being able to have somebody that can, or even have a Dan Reedy that, that you have behind you that, can close on the deals. When I was getting started, one of the people that I was doing stuff for, and I can't remember their name right at this time, but they were a big equity group out of California. And, a lot of the stuff, before I would even make an offer on it, I would just, take them around to the properties, look at them, and he would just tell me what he needed, where he needed to be at on them. And I would just ink them up at a lower price. And, I was closing 5-10 of them a week. And we did like 90 of them in a few months. So, just having somebody like that, or there's other big, people that are here in the area that are doing a lot of flips, just trying to find out what they're looking for. And that could be your go-to person, build a relationship. And, they could be the buyer each time. I think, having a license, I think there's some good that can come from that. I don't have a license. I have chosen not to, but I think there's advantages there. You can take a commission, you can, have access to comps. There's things like that you can do. You're not going to get in trouble for brokering or anything like that. But then like me, I don't have a license, but I still have access to the MLS through a realtor. I also use a site called PropStream Data, and which allows me to pull lists. It allows me to run comps because you can find them inside of there. But I use that almost every day. It just gives me kind of a snapshot of everything that's going on with the property. If there's back taxes owed against it, who's on title, the chain of title as far as like, who's bought and sold it over the years. There's a lot of things that you can get from that. You were saying as far as like tools, which I kind of had some slides here I put together, but I wasn't sure how to actually put them on here. So, and what was the main question there? I apologize.
Well, what tools would you suggest that a new investor would need? Some of this stuff gets like, do I need to go have Podio instantly? I'm like, I tried to use Podio. I couldn't figure it out. But what would you recommend that they get started with?
I think a CRM is important. I've used Podio. Right now I use FreedomSoft. I know Damon has, REI Black Book. But I think a CRM is important. You don't necessarily have to have it, but the reason why it's important, in my opinion, is just to be able to keep track of your leads, your notes. Definitely helps with follow-up. The more people you start talking to, it's going to be hard to remember every conversation and everything that goes on, like what they wanted for their, what their asking price was, or, that the tenant's moving out in 30 days and to call them back. To me, that's the importance of that. Because the more marketing you're doing, eventually you're going to forget to do those things. I know some people do it through Evernote and other things, but to me, it's just all in one place, and it's just, nice and clean. Like I said, prop stream data I think is important. Having a phone system, you know, of some sort. I mean, it could be Vumber, it could be Call Rail. You know, I think REI Black Book has it. I know Freedom Soft does, but for me, I use that because I don't want to use my personal cell phone. You know, I don't want my number being out there for everything. I use different numbers for different marketing channels, you know, whether it's bandit signs or postcards. So, you know, with those phone systems, you can purchase different phone numbers for those marketing channels. And then, you know, that way it's a different number coming for different things. And then as far as just tools, this isn't really a tool, but I mean, I think finding a good title company that that does assignments and will do a split closing. You know, I think that's important. And then just, again, like I was mentioning earlier, just having a private lender or a hard money lender that allows you to be able to purchase those properties. If, you know, like if you can't find the buyer, then you know, it's important to be able to have the ability to still close on it. And that's why you would need those.
Okay. If you're willing to share, and you may not be willing to share right now in this tight market, but what are you doing to generate seller leads?
So I still do a lot of RVMs, text messages, cold calls, and I try to do them in that order. Just I try to start with the cheapest means of trying to reach somebody and then work my way up. I don't want to send postcards out and spend 50 cents a piece and then, you know, hardly anybody responds. I'd rather save that type of marketing for the ones that I can't reach through the other means.
Well, we're going to put you on the spot because Damon's going to tell you you have to change how you do that. He's going to tell us how we have to change all that, and I'm working on changing all that in my marketing as well. After sitting through several the same presentation 4 times with Damon, I'm still learning. So,
yeah, but that's what I'm currently doing. We are transitioning and trying to get, you know, stop that stuff. I don't know all the laws, which we'll hear some of them from him here in just a minute. But to me, it's like, you know, I'm guessing here, but you know, I'm going to continue doing a lot of those, you know, but the thing is a lot of, like, I have a pretty big database now because I've talked to these people. So it's not like I'm just contacting them a second time. So I can still do follow-ups with those things. And then a lot of the stuff we're trying to transition to is just more Facebook ads, Google pay-per-click ads, and then just, you know, building up a vacant house team to go drive for dollars and find properties. And then just continue to work with, you know, new wholesalers that can bring deals and just be other, you know, feet on the ground out there trying to drum up, you know, leads. So.
right. Let's see. I forgot I made slides here. All right. Well, I think I've gone through most of my questions. Let me see here. Make sure I've gotten them all. You also talked about you're assigning your deal. So earlier on you acted basically as a bird dog for Christoph, but now that you're putting them in a contract and assigning your deals. And I liked the concept of having your own buyers list. So how many buyers do you need on your own buyers list? Because we don't want to go out and market them to the general public, but we can market them. We can't really market them, but we can reach out to our buyers list and everybody's like, I need to have 500 people on my buyers list. Do you need that many people on a buyers list?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think I sell the majority of my deals to a handful of people. So, I mean, if you just get in your group or like Bridge, you know, as far as local, I mean, you can find who the big buyers are real easily in there and then just utilize them, you know, find out exactly what they're looking for, what their buy box is and their criteria, and, you know, just look for those deals. I mean, there's a lot of times when I have a deal that comes to my desk or like I see another wholesaler and I just immediately know, okay, well, hey, this one could go to Kim or Dan or, you know, whoever. I mean, I can just pick up a phone and make a phone call and, you know, it can be sold. Now, not everyone is that way, but, you know, I think it's important to try to find out what exactly they are looking for so that, you know, at least starting out, you can go just search for them, you know?
Right. I've found that too. I see all these people, build this awesome, huge buyers list. And right now, if you don't need a buyers list in today's market, you just need houses. So, but when we had a little bit slower market, it was still very easy just to, I know what these 5 buyers buy. And if that deal comes across my desk, I save time. I can just market it to them. I've even in the past called up, I've gone to look at the house. I haven't made the offer, and I've called up, Dan Reedy. We called him up a few times because we didn't know what his buyers would want or what he might want. So we would call him up and send him pictures and say, hey, Dan, what would you pay me for this house? And then I was able to get it under contract and assign it directly to him.
Yep.
There was no marketing needed. So
I still do that with some people. It's like, hey, I'm kind of on the border about this one. I know this is your area. Here's the pictures. Like, what's your thoughts on it? And, and depending on what they say, then, I'll try to, make my offer based off of that, or have them go look at it with me if I got a good relationship. I mean, you have to be careful with that. But if you're utilizing the bigger people in the market, then, you shouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, they're not going to, risk their reputation to, snake that deal from you.
All right. Well, cool. I want to thank you for getting online and sharing with us. I know this was a different idea for you, was to get on Zoom. So it took a little bit of effort to get you to join us.
Yes, it wasn't too bad.
All right. Well, thank you. And we will hopefully we'll have hear from you with the questions. And I am going to move on to Damon. All right. So next up is Damon Remy. We've mentioned him a few times throughout the call. He is been in the real estate industry since 2001. And he started REI Black Book in 2009. He is a big tech guy. And he is, I'm going to have to say, the leading expert on understanding all the rules and regulations around technology and how technology, not technology necessarily, telemarketing technology works. And he's not here to teach you all the rules and regulations of how they're changing, because we can't do that in 15 minutes. He is just here to scare you straight tonight. And he's going to have some follow-up training. I have some links I'll email out, but you can also text the letters TCPA to 816-323-TCPA. And you'll also get to see REI Black Book's follow-up system in action. And he will tell you how you can get in on the next follow-up training. So I am going to turn it over to you, Damon. And you are always logoed up. I need to get MAREI shirts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You should. Can you see the screen? Is that sharing?
Yeah, I got blood in the water.
All right, perfect. Well, unfortunately there is blood in the water, and I am here to scare you straight. But the truth of it is there's still a way to text. There's still a way to RVM, but quite frankly, not for lead generation. I'm telling you right now, if you're using RVMs to and texting for your cold lead generation, then especially RVMs, stay away from that stuff. We'll get into it why, but it's changing, bottom line. So who am I, guys? I'm the founder, creator of REI Black Book and Profit Drive. I've been helping, business owners really solve problems for 27 plus years. Was a leading trainer, educator for the Rich Dad Education. Created Robert's marketing and technology classes, as well as their business, the fundamental business growth classes as well. Done that for many, many years. To be clear, I am not an attorney. So I'm not providing legal advice. Make sure you really do seek out your own legal counsel on this stuff. Okay, it really is important. There's varying laws that do differ, even in the states, on some of this stuff. So you definitely want to get local representation. Bottom line, I've spent a decade doing this stuff, and what I'm going to cover tonight, quickly, by the way, because I've got about 4 hours of content, I'm going to squeeze into 15 minutes. Okay. But I'm going to talk a little bit about how did we get here. All right. We're going to talk about what are the rules. Right. We're going to talk about what's changing and why. All right. So what's changing and why. We'll chat about how to maintain compliance. Okay. How to maintain compliance, and really, truly a better way forward. Now, look, I don't fault any of you using RVMs and texting or anything else for your lead generation. Right. There is predicted to be 2.7 trillion text messages sent by businesses by year 2022. So that's business text messages, not even personal text messages, and the 2 billion that my 13-year-old sends. Okay, so the reason it's so great is because it's super easy, but it's really a high engagement channel, right? So where else are you going to get a 98% average open rate? So I want you to think about that. You send 100 messages, 98 people are going to open them. In fact, 90% are going to open them within the first 3 minutes. And this is ridiculously crazy. 45% of them are going to respond, right? So it is absolutely a high engagement channel, super easy. It's one of the reasons folks use it. But the question is for how long, right? So this really is all about consumers, right? So 60% said, 63% to be exact, said, hey, look, they expect an opt-in, right? So they want just to receive some random text message. Not only do they expect it, quite frankly, hey, it's the law. 92% said the information, quite frankly, being sent by businesses was really not useful. 93% said, look, they want to specify the message frequency, okay? The total do not call complaints, all right? So you've got lots of different laws and already on the books that really kind of regulate this stuff. I'm going to give you guys a list of those laws. I'm going to tell you how to find out more information. But just in 2020, almost 4 million complaints on the do not call, just from the FTC on the do not call registry, okay? Now you're going to see here complaints over time. 2017 was even higher. It's down over the last few years. And I do have a theory on that. Quite frankly, I think the issue is that us as consumers, we've been complaining and nothing matters, right? How many of you guys have actually complained and said, hey, look, you turned a text message in? At some point, we just become calloused and we're like, man, there's nothing I can do. But to be clear, there are 241 million active registrants on the do not call list. Now, keep in mind, there's only like 330 million folks in the United States. So if you're actually compliant and at a minimum scrubbing the do not call list, all right, at a minimum, if you're calling, if you're texting, you're doing any of this stuff, if you've not went to donotcall.gov and registered, you're already in violation and facing a potential $43,000 fine, okay? And look, if you do that and you start scrubbing your list, quite frankly, that list is going to be quite small, really, okay? Now, this actually just happened in September of 2020, a 2.1 million settlement with Globex Telecom and Associates. Now, why is this important? This was one of the first consumer protection cases against a voice over IP company, all right? So technology typically can leapfrog, the law, right? Happens all the time, right? So a law might be passed, but hey, bam, technology kind of leapfrogs it. And we've had a lot of legislation on the books for many, many years. However, technology has kind of found a way to skate that. But look, they're catching up. And this is one of the first consumer protection cases for a 2.1 million settlement against a voice over IP service provider. So voice over IP, it's basically just software companies that, right? You guys see this all the time. It's the Ring Centrals, it's CallRail, it's all those type of phone systems, even our Black Book, right? So we're a voice over IP service provider because we do provide phone systems, texting all through our platform, which is why I study this stuff so much so that you don't have to, so we can keep you protected. So I'm going to go to the Wayback Machine and give you guys a little bit of a brief history. It's important to understand this history to understand why we're where we're at today and where most of this stuff actually originated. Because quite frankly, a lot of the laws that are actually on the books today have been on the books since 1991, right? So this is actually Senator Fritz Hollings. He's one of the principals that was really, instrumental in passing the TCPA, the original TCPA Act of 1991. But just read this here, right? He's like, hey, look, calls are the scourge of modern civilization. They wake us up in the morning. They interrupt our dinner at night. They force the sick and elderly out of bed. They hound us until we want to rip the telephone right out of the wall. These calls are a nuisance and an invasion of privacy. Give me a heck yeah in the chat box if you agree, by the way. Do you enjoy this type of marketing, by the way? That's one of my litmus tests personally for my own marketing strategies. If I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. So let's also kind of think about 1991 versus now, okay? Only 3% of folks own cell phones compared to 95% owning cell phones. In fact, 0 text messages were sent in 1991 compared to trillions today. Now, the first text message wasn't even sent until December of 1992. A little trivia fact, it was Merry Christmas. That was the very first text message, right? So next trivia night that comes up, there you go, there's the winner. Now, that's important to understand because when the TCPA was actually passed, texting really didn't exist, okay? So it is important to understand. So a couple more things about 1991. So first and foremost, like fax machines used expensive thermal paper. Why is that important? Because if you were sending a marketing fax to the recipient actually had to pay for the paper for you to market to them. Okay, so it's really important. Cell phones had high usage, right? High charge usage, right? Or high usage charges. You guys all remember free nights and weekends, right? How many of you guys like waited until 7:01 to start calling your girlfriend whenever you were like in high school, right? I can raise my hand to that. Yep, I did. Okay, so free nights and weekends. And then the other really important thing was auto dialers. Okay, so auto dialers, especially the old auto dialers, which were like physical auto dialer machines, they were, what they would do is they would blanket an entire area code, right? So instead of having to have a list of phone numbers, you would literally just say, hey, look, I want to call every number in 314. And the dialer could rotate through and dial every number and just connect you with the live people, right? Now, the problem with that, so if you kind of look at all of that, is, I mean, there's a ton of problems with that, by the way. You're tying up emergency lines, you're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But also, every time you called somebody's cell phone, guess what? The recipient then had to pay, okay? So that was really the big thing, okay? So there were three big concerns. One, the automated dialers made it really easy, and it just dramatically increased the calls, okay? The invasion of privacy was big, right? And cost shifting, right? So if I sent a fax, a marketing fax, unsolicited especially, then the recipient had to pay for that. If I called them, the recipient had to pay for that. And eventually, once text messaging really started becoming popular, so in the early days, you could only, like AT&T customers could only text other AT&T customers. Eventually, you had intercarrier operability, and then it was still, you would pay for incoming text messages and stuff like that. So the key to all of this is like the government's like, hey, look, we got some problems. And so what are they going to do? They're going to step in and they're going to regulate. All right. So what did the government come in and regulate? Right. Well, just a few things, right? They regulate who you can call, text, or fax. They regulate how you can call, text, or fax. They regulate what you can call, text, or fax. And finally, when you can call and text. Notice that you can actually fax. All right. You can fax at 3 a.m. if you want. Okay. So they, for whatever reason, they left the time constraint off of fax machines. All right. So this is, again, guys, I know I'm firing rapid fire. You know, I watched Jeff's tonight as well, and I watched him rapid fire. And so I appreciate all the content and trying to get through it. But there's some major issues here. Okay. I'm going to cover these really quick. The Telephone Consumer Protection Act, that was the very first, really the first protection act that came out, right? It prohibits, a couple of keywords here, unsolicited automated calls, right? They prohibit solicitors calling before 8 a.m. and after 9 p.m. Note, there are state-specific guidelines to this. $1,500 per willful violation. Now, that's been around since 1991, okay? But the problem was that the keywords in that was unsolicited automated calls. So you could manually dial anybody's cell phone, home phone. You could still manually dial anybody, right? So in 2003, they came back and said, okay, well, that's out of hand. So that's whenever they came up with the do not call registry. So now we could go to do not call, register our phone number, okay? And then the other thing that was really important was the telemarketing sales rule that had some even tighter time constrictions and what you can and can't say when you are telemarketing, okay? There's all kinds of crazy things that you can't convey over the telemarketing. But marketers got really smart, spammers, and they said, hey, cool, everybody that's registered on this do not call thing, we're still gonna call them because we're gonna spoof our number so that nobody really knows who we are. You can't really call, you can't really track us, you can't really know who we are, and we can kind of fly under the radar, and we're gonna do that like crazy, and we're just gonna break the law, and nobody's gonna be able to track us and find us. All good. So government comes in and says, hey, cool, we're gonna go ahead and make that spoofing thing illegal. So they passed the Truth in Caller ID Act in 2009, but guess what? Did it make any difference? Little to no impact, okay? Because some key things, you could not track this stuff. So just in 2020, we had 46 billion robocalls, all right? And so what really is the big change, okay? And I'll wrap it up with this, guys. I've got a ton more training on this, okay? Really the big change that was passed in 2020, okay? It is the Telephone Robocall Abuse Criminal Enforcement and Deterrence Act, okay? Better known as the TRACE Act of 2020, okay? So a lot of the carriers and everything else, they're acting like they're good guys right now. And they're saying, hey, we're going to pass all these new things. We're going to change all this stuff so that we really monitor and filter all these texting and calls and everything else. but really they're being required to do it by June 30th of 2021. So you're going to start seeing tons and tons and tons of changes. What did they change? First and foremost, they increased the statute of limitations. So that was the other thing. Back in 1991, they said, hey, look, this is illegal. But if it's past a year, then guess what? All the bad actors get off the hook, right? So they came back this year and said, hey, guess what? We're going to increase that 1 year to 4 years. They said, hey, guess what? The financial penalty is not stiff enough. They increased the financial penalty to $10,000 per violation, right? Which is each call, each text message, $10,000, folks, 10,000 bucks. So bad acts today, right? So bad acts today, each one of those RVMs you send today, okay, all of that stuff, literally they've got 4 years to find you, and it could be $10,000, all right? Now, here's the big kicker. This is the game changer right here, okay? They are implementing, or in fact, what they did is the government forced the carriers. So AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, all of those, they said, hey, look, carriers, we are going to make you create a whole new tracking mechanism so that every phone number must be registered, and we've got to be able to track it, okay? And in fact, the carriers have went one further, and they said, you know what? Not only are we going to do that, but now we're going to register each phone number that you register now, okay? And if it's not registered, guess what they're going to do? They're going to block the traffic, and you're not going to be able to send those RVMs or text anymore anyways, okay? So all of that stuff is going to change, and now each number is going to be tracked back to you, and they're also requiring you to submit your campaigns. They're requiring you to submit your campaigns for approval, which will give you a trust score, which is kind of like a credit score, which will then determine how many messages per day you can send per that number, what's your throughput, all kinds of crazy cool stuff. And if you're a tech nerd like I am, man, you can geek out with me all day on this stuff. I won't really bore you guys with the details. The key here is you won't be able to fly under the radar anymore. And then there's two more things they did. They indemnified the carriers. So the carriers can now block all your messages without liability, right? And then they are also making it easier for the consumers to report the bad actors. So guys, look, let me tell you, this has a lot of teeth that you better be paying attention to. And they're being very clear. Look, they've increased the statute of limitation. They've increased the financial penalties. They're increasing the tracking so they know who you are, right? They're indemnifying the carriers, and right, they're going to make it easier for consumers to report the bad actors, okay? So I've got a ton of information on how to stay compliant. You absolutely still can use texting. You can still use ringless voicemail. You can still, call, all right? You can still do all of those things, and we will cover it, guys, straight up. I mean, I tried to squeeze this in, and Kim, I went over 5 minutes. I just noticed. I apologize, but there's a ton of info, and hope to see you guys on the webinar.
It's all good, Damon. I left a little bit in there because I knew you have 4 hours that you had to cram in, and it gets complicated. So I want to thank you, and you and your team are going to stick around for questions at the end as well, right? All right, cool.
I will be here to answer questions. Absolutely.
All right, cool. And you might have a few in the chat. You might jump on, and I am going on to Michelle. So Michelle is a real estate investor. Her bio said since 2000. I think she started right about the same time I did. She's a realtor licensed with EXP. She is a leader of Winvestors. They meet weekly on Wednesdays. And I don't think there's any kind of real estate investing in the residential, single family, small multifamily space that Michelle has not had her finger in a little bit in some way. But I know that she flips, she rehabs, she invests in notes, she does creative deals. And if you want to reach her, you can find her on Facebook. They have a private group, Winvestors. Her and her husband invest together. So I am going to turn it over to you, Michelle. The alternatives to wholesaling or alternatives to breaking the law, so that we all have something else that we can do.
Well, thanks. Yeah, this is interesting. So I get to clean up and try to tell you different things. So I do have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get that. All right. So I titled it Ways to be a Real Estate Investor, but I know we're going to talk about alternatives to what we've got. And I'm going to make it fast because I know everybody's gone over, and I see the chat has blown up with questions throughout the night. So we'll run through this really quick and then hopefully get to some Q&A. What I wanted to say is just my opinion and my experience over time is that wholesaling is not actually real estate investing. Wholesaling is not the only way to do business, but it seems like it from the marketing that gets out there and all of the people that are teaching people how to do it. Wholesaling was originally what you did when you had too many deals. So you went out, you marketed, you had too many deals, and you said, oh, I really don't want to do this extra one. And so you found another investor that you worked with and said, hey, you want to buy this, and you made a little bit of money on it. But now it seems to be what we do with every deal. And I wanted to give some of the new folks, maybe some of the old folks need a refresher too, I don't know, a definition of real estate investing. Someone who invests in real estate, owns something and sells it, or owns it and rents it, or they invest money into a REIT, a joint venture, or some other form of actually investing their finances. Who is not a real estate investor? Someone who assigns a contract and never owns it because there's no investment, or a realtor who only lists and sells but never owns. So you're not an investor then. You participate in real estate, but you're not an investor. All my Winvestors, they know me. I'm very fond of the "there is no easy button" comment. So you've heard it from me a million times. There is no easy button. So what we have to do is learn how to do things correct and legal and right and all that good stuff. And there isn't an easy button. And no, I'm not it, although some of them tell me that I am sometimes. So when we get down to it is, what can you do if you're not, if we want to look at alternatives to this very popular model, what can you do? And this is my opinion. I say you need to learn your business. So I have this list. I'm going to go through it really quickly. Hopefully we can get through all of them and done and on to the Q&A here in a minute. But in the beginning, what you need to do is close, fund, and own your property, then advertise and sell it to someone. That's what I did. That's what we do. When we do stuff, we don't assign contracts. We buy them, close on them, and then resell them. You can close, fund, and flip the property yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know you're going to say, well, where's the money? I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. You can also close, fund, own the property, then list it on the MLS and hotel it or market or get market value for the property. You could get a realtor's license. Then you're learning rules, the ethics, the laws, and how to operate within the environment. You could, if you don't want to do those things, hire on to a big buyer or even a small buyer as an acquisitions person. Learn something, do the position, learn a different piece of the real estate market. You could close, fund, and own and hold for rentals. You can do short-term, long-term rentals. All of that is close, fund, own, and do. You could become a property manager. That would make you learn a lot. You'll learn tenants, you'll learn toilets, you'll learn rules and municipalities, you'll learn all kinds of different things that would be a part of the real estate investing model. Or you could become a project manager for a contractor or for another person who's flipping properties and needs somebody to help manage their deals. You're learning and all of these things. This is learning to do your business. The other thing that I think is very important is to have skin in the game. If you have skin in the game by way of money, knowledge, your time, your exposure to risk, or your ownership of something, then it actually gives you more credibility in the process, and it will help you with that age-old thing that everybody tells you. And I know people roll their eyes when people say it. I say it to people all the time. If you have the right deal, the money will come. If you have the right deal, these things will come. And when you put all of this together, this is truly how you get there. All of the pieces of real estate investing will come together when you do these things. Create your knowledge, make yourself an asset, learn and understand what other people's risks are in the deal you're trying to sell or make or do. Understand and accept your own risk position operate with integrity, and always create win-win situations. Sometimes we get caught up and we're always looking for that paycheck instead of creating the win-win situations, and that's very important. And next slide. This thing just, I don't know, just came to me. Brian says, oh, that's awesome. Knowledge is your superpower. I think that it is, because I am just a geek about information. I got to know everything there is to know. But the bigger thing that I put in small print over on the side, integrity is your currency. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to go very far in the business, because it's a small world with the buyers and the people that actually do the business. Oh, did I lose my slide? So this one's a short presentation. I'm on my conclusion slide already so that Kim can ask me a question or we can move on to Q&A. But what I think that you need to do is you need to learn the business, do different parts of the business, and own things. Be responsible, have integrity, don't take shortcuts, and all of it will come together. When you have that, your integrity currency, it goes far with hard money lenders, it goes far with private lenders, it goes far with everybody. So just make sure that you do all those things. And I'm going to give you the time back, Kim.
All right, well, cool, Michelle. I do want to ask you, this is one of the questions that somebody asked, and this will probably be, I think this kind of fits into your presentation, is wholesaling ethical?
It depends on whether you do wholesaling the way that they train people now, which is assign a contract that you have no intent or capacity to close, or if you do wholesaling, which was the way it originally was, I own the property and I'm going to sell it for a discount to someone else. So it's ethical if you do it legally. If you don't, then I would say no.
We have a ton of questions. Let me see if I can get to the top.
By the way, Michelle, I thought that was a amazing presentation. Less is more, and that was so good.
Thank you, Jeff.
Michelle kicks ass. Hello.
Hey, and I'm the only girl on the panel today. Girl power.
You're the best one. I think you blew me away.
I did my hair and makeup, so I try. Yeah.
So the first question, Jeff, is how much does Chick-fil-A pay you to advertise?
Chick-fil-A does not pay me anything to advertise. They are one of the 3 or 4 companies in this country that I am fanatical about. They just do everything with as much integrity and honesty and customer service as they can do. I'm a fanatic about Southwest Airlines the same way. I flew 107 flights with them last year in COVID, 107 flights with Southwest. They're amazing. I love MAREI, and I'm fanatic about those things.
All right, cool. Thanks for filling time while I'm still trying to find the top of the questions. There we go. We're getting close.
And by the way, Chick-fil-A, you can lose weight, live on the road, and eat Chick-fil-A at the same time. Their grilled nuggets and their salads are the way to go.
So,
just saying.
The first question, Jeff, you were talking about, you did your presentations and all the videos that they can go back and watch that are Ohio law. But those Ohio laws pretty much apply nationwide, correct?
Very similar construction of the definition of a broker in all 50 states. The concept is always the same. A real estate broker, which covers licensee, agent, realtor, the whole pile, is someone who is profiting by matching a buyer and a seller up on a piece of property without them having an ownership interest in the property.
Okay. And then you had mentioned bird dogging, and bird dogging is basically doing that, going out and finding a property and turning it over to somebody else and getting paid a referral fee.
Yep.
But is there a way the bird dog person could get paid legally?
Put the property under contract, put some money down, put an earnest money on deposit with a reputable title company. Now you have a valid contract. If it's a good deal, yes, the money will show up, just like Michelle said. And now you can go assign or sell that contract and make money legitimately. But just paying somebody to drive around, take pictures of ugly houses, and give them money for doing it, well, if you're going to give them money, whether you close on the deal or not, fine. But if you're only going to pay them if the deal closes, that's bird dog and it's illegal.
So if I'm out there doing my marketing with postcards and all my postcards say, bring me a deal and I'll pay you $500,
Stop mailing those postcards now.
I go to all the pre-made, done-for-you websites, and a lot of them have that.
If you would find a postcard like that available through any of the direct mail features at either RealFlow or Systemate, I will personally go smack the other owners across the head and knock them unconscious. They've been told by their lawyer to not do that. So I don't think that stuff's there.
And then this is a question, and I'm sure, as a licensed agent, can I purchase property through a wholesaler? Yes, you can. But I think the bigger question is, and this is where we have discussions in our office, where we are wholesaling a property, but then a realtor is wanting to bring a buyer for our wholesale property. And I go around and around and I have no idea how to put that deal together. So I always back up and use my real estate license in that situation. I'm like, let me list the property and then let the realtor be the buyer's agent and the paperwork's clean. But is there any way for a realtor to get involved in a wholesale deal as a realtor?
If it's a true legitimate wholesale deal that you already own the property and you don't have the time or the bandwidth to do the rehab on it, absolutely. Then it's literally you're the owner and there's only one agent involved in the deal. If you don't own the property, then you can't be selling the property unless you're fully disclosing that you're going to become the owner of record before the second closing. And everybody's cool with that.
If you look at all of my ads, it says owner agent. So I'm buying properties and closing on them. And when I resell the wholesale, I'm not doing it through the MLS, but you have to disclose if you are a real estate agent or a broker and you're selling a property that's not on the MLS, you have to disclose that. And you also have to disclose it in any advertising, et cetera.
And you have to disclose it on the MLS if it's an agent broker, or agent seller and so on. Yeah. And there was
a yard sign.
Yeah. Anything. There was a question David Smith had up there about the 25-cent bird dog fee and then bonus. Sorry, David, that doesn't work.
I think one thing that would probably help people, and Jeff, I'd be curious on your take on this, because I've heard you kind of already alluding to this stuff, is defining the difference of what really is wholesaling, because you've said it multiple times. You own the property, right? So that's what we try to simplify the definition of this stuff. Wholesaling means I'm going to go close on the property. True definition of wholesaling in any business, right? It exists. I'm going to buy something and then I'm going to sell it to basically somebody that's going to sell at retail, right?
Buy at a wholesaler discount price and sell at a higher price. Yes, that's where the term originally came from. And Michelle did a fantastic job outlining that.
Yeah.
And then we started cutting corners, and then we tried to systematize it, and then we tried to spiff it and all this other stuff.
But I think where a lot of the confusion gets thrown into this, like, okay, wholesaling basically, look, you're going to buy it low, you're going to sell it at retail price, right? That's wholesaling. Okay, fine. Assignment of contracts, which is the stuff you've talked about, like that's where all of a sudden, that's where all the problems exist. Buying the property, true wholesaling, no issues with that.
Correct.
All the assignment of contract crap.
And you heard me say in my presentation that every regulator, every investigator I've ever spoken to basically says, if you double close, we're fine with you. Right. Because then you win on title.
But you also mentioned that people can sell or assign a contract. The biggest issue is if you do that with no intent to close, if you don't sell or assign that contract.
And correct, Dan, exactly right. Because if you enter into a contract that you do not have the intention of performing, it's a fraudulent deal. You're lying through your teeth.
Exactly. And I think that's where we see the problem with the new wholesalers and a lot of this training stuff is to if you don't do it, just back out, because I've given very few deposits in my time. The only people that ask me for deposits are wholesalers, and not experienced wholesalers. I had a guy ask me for a $10,000 deposit and I was like, GTF. oh, and but that's the intent. They'll put anything under contract, throw it out on social media. If they sell it, you know, the contract, supposedly they make a few bucks. If they don't, they're just like, oh, sorry, I couldn't close. What are you going to do?
And they've screwed up title to somebody else's property. They've
Yeah.
held them a hostage for 30, 60, 90 days. And they have created a ripple effect and given everybody a bad name in the industry.
I have another quick question for you. There's a few entities around that will put a contract on somebody's house. They can't close it by the time the closing date comes. And so when that buyer wants to back out, the title company always wants a release of that contract from the person that put it under, but they will file I don't know the exact
Notice
term.
of equitable interest.
Yes, notice of equitable interest, but they didn't truly have any equitable interest because they didn't have any money in escrow or deposits or that type of stuff. I've had a local title company insure around that because they said that is a fraudulent notice of equitable interest, but that's becoming popular as well. Well, oh, wait a minute, I couldn't close, but you can't back out of the contract. I'll it's like a Liz Pendants, we'll cloud your title.
Right. I've been consulted on a number of those cases, and my response is close around it. Or if you really want to have fun, please someday let me do this. I want to file a lawsuit for title slander against the donkey that filed that.
Yeah. If you don't have money in escrow and ready,
then I'm going to
able
make sure,
close,
then I'm going to go right at you and go, okay, on the day of closing, did you have either on deposit with the escrow company or in your own bank account enough money to close the deal and fund it?
Exactly.
Because if you didn't, I will own you.
Yeah. So if you're out there doing that, be very careful, because
And if I
cranky old
can-
guys like me will start shit.
And if I can catch you doing it a couple of times, then I'll try and go for a civil RICO on you. And that way you can't try and hide behind an entity or a trust or an LLC, and you can't go run to bankruptcy court and try and discharge me. No, I will own you till the day you die.
And that brings up an interesting point. There's a lot of that going on, and this is off subject, but when you're talking about wholesaling, when you're reselling a property on the MLS and you draw a line through the seller's disclosure, I don't know anything, but you really did work to it. Not only you can go, I had a client involved in a jury trial, and it was an out of Canadian investor hired a rehab company. They disclosed what they knew, but the owner had inspections. They signed off. They bought it as is. A year later, leaky basement, went to a jury trial, $100,000 in punitive damages plus actual damages, because it wasn't a RICO, but it was something, some kind of caveat that there was collusion.
Did they show that the parties that sold the property concealed the leaky basement?
They alluded to that, and because it was a jury trial and the poor little gal that bought it was in tears, and supposedly the agent and the investor knew that there had been a problem before the rehab. So
Let's shift gears.
Sorry.
Another question here. We've talked about this a little bit tonight, and this is kind of a question all of us have. So Jeff, you say if I don't own the property, I just have it under contract, I really can't advertise. So what is advertising? If I call up Damon and say, Damon, I got this great deal and I just put it under contract, can I sign it to you? Is that advertising, or is it putting it out on Facebook and sending a mass email blast out to everybody advertising? What is advertising?
A specific focused communication between two individuals is not advertising. Sending a message out where you don't know who's going to see it, when they're going to see it, and where they are when they see it, that's advertising.
So sending it to your buyer's list would be okay.
If you send it to your buyer's list and you have the caveat on there, confidential, do not forward. Confidential, do not forward. Private use only. You're fine on that one. Great point, James. Great point. But if you're putting something out there and, if you're being like the typical knuckle dragging, broke as a joke, brand new, wet behind the ears wholesaler who thinks that they're going to just try and piggyback on everybody else's deal, they're just spamming everything for everybody. Stop it.
Okay, let's shift gears and go to telemarketing here for a minute, Damon. I know, are you still here, Damon? You're frozen on my screen.
Percent.
Well, Damon,
And at the end of the day, I'm good. I'm good. It's like, yes, bring it.
I don't know. My computer
Continue.
has.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I've even had some of my own properties tried to be sold back to me by other broke as a joke wholesalers.
I have too. So Damon, I know.
So what can I tell you? What can I tell you? I mean, these are properties that I've owned for a long time too.
Okay, now I'm unstable. Google is not working well. Google Fiber is just locked up. Lovely. Everybody's frozen but me.
Told.
Bump it to at least 100, preferably 500.
Okay.
I mean, earnest money means you're serious about buying it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earnest means I'm anxious. I want it. So prove it. Let's put some money where your mouth is.
Okay. And then one thing that we do, we generally have ours due at the end of due diligence period. Is that bad? Is that okay?
I think that is a concept that I have taught to some of the nation's leading wholesalers, guys that routinely buy and sell hundreds of houses a year. It helps them manage the seller's expectation, because a lot of times sellers aren't telling the truth about the condition of title or the condition of the property. So I think that's a smart strategy, that the money has to go into escrow at the end of your due diligence inspection period.
Well, and I like it that way too, because I hate how even if your contract states that, if whichever party backs out, as long as it's within the due diligence period, the title company still requires both parties to agree like a second time, which at that point, it's an argument if they don't want to do it. And then it just gets tied up.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Okay.
Good points. Good points.
All right, I think I'm back. Google Fiber is having issues tonight, and it completely threw me out of the meeting, so I had to come back. But my question for Damon is, we have all these law changes that went into effect, I believe, in March, and you have actually officially talked to people that are getting fines because of the new regulations that went into effect. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've got two investors specifically. One relatively new, just got settled for $7,500. Another more seasoned investor that's been around, teaches lots of courses, and he just settled for $15,000. And just to be clear, most of all of the laws have been in, like a lot of these have been in place, 1991, 2003, 2009. And then in 2000, they changed the Trace Act. That was signed, I believe, January of 2020. And the really important piece to that is what you're seeing today is they gave the carriers a few deadlines, which is June of this year, to implement some of the tracking technology, right? So the reason it's so easy to get away with all of this today is just because it's tough to track it. There's so much of this happening that it's hard to find the bad actors, so to speak, even for the telephone companies. But that is changing in a dramatic way. That's changing. But yeah, it's not just the big multi-million-dollar scary stuff. And you see these, literally $1 million, settlements. You're like, oh, that'll never be me. No, we're seeing average Joe, settling for $7,500, $15,000. So it's starting to happen more and more frequently for sure.
Okay. We also talked to some tools there, and I know James came up with some tools. What did you start with? So we're looking at a CRM. What CRM are you using now, and have you used anything else that you would recommend? And how do you use it actually?
What was the last question? I'm sorry.
How do you actually put the CRM in use? So a lot of people didn't even know what CRM is. So that's your contact manager, but how do you use it other than just putting information in it?
For me, I use it for, holding documents. I'm sure, I think REI Black Book does this too, but like I use Freedom Soft now. But some of them can run comps. I don't know. I mean, some of them, pull it in through Zillow. I think there's other ways that it do it, but I mean, for me, it's a phone system. It's, I can send text messages, emails through it. When people call or text back in, it goes right back into that contact, because it is a phone system as well. But it just allows me to hold everything in one place. I can put pictures, documents, that stuff in there. I can create campaigns inside of there, so I can do all my marketing through there. I can track my KPIs, which are just key performance indicators. So I can see like my response rate on things. I can see, how many people have responded to those different types of, campaigns I'm doing. I'm sure Damon can add more to it. I'm sure there's some things I'm forgetting, but I mean, that's what I use.
The money button, right?
The what? I'm sorry.
You forgot the print money button, right?
Yep. It prints money.
I mean, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you summed it up very well, right? I mean, the key to this, and this is what I tell people all the time. Look, you as a human being have a capacity. Your memory will break, and that's a different threshold for everybody. And maybe I can keep track of 10 conversations. Maybe I can only keep track of 5. Maybe you're superhuman and you can keep track of 100 conversations. But at some point, that breaks. And if it breaks, then you're leaving deals on the table, because the money really isn't the follow-up. It costs a lot of money to generate leads, and all of that's about to change anyways with the stuff I was talking about, because ringless voicemails and texting, all of that stuff is really inexpensive. Cold calling, all that stuff is really inexpensive. So it's cheap to generate leads. But if that stuff goes away, you're gonna have to start spending more money for leads. And now you need to make sure that you get every opportunity that you can out of those leads with the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up for sure.
I know when I started, I was using paper. And so I would have to once a month get the stack of paper and go through and take notes. What did we lose? What happened? It worked, but it was very cumbersome. But if you only had 10 deals, that's fine. But if you have 200 potential leads, then it starts getting confusing.
Jeff, if I could maybe get you to just kind of share about the hard and soft costs of defending if someone gets caught crossways. I know what it is, but I don't know that everybody's aware of that. And when you get caught, or you get a letter from that Department of Insurance or Missouri or whatever, Kansas Real Estate Commission, and they ask, and what rat hole you're starting to hit down. Maybe you can just kind of talk about that in general, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh my. First of all, let's start at the beginning. If you get one of those letters, please take it seriously. Secondly, compare the size of your bank account to the size of the state agency's budget and ask yourself who's got more money and who's going to last longer in a contest. And the moment you see that, then it's going to be like, okay, so if I can't quickly prove the negative, I'm in trouble. The third thing I would tell you to do is pay close attention to everything that they ask you for. And the number one mistake there's 2 mistakes that most investors make when they get a letter from an agency, is that they either ignore it or that they sanitize their files before they send in the stuff. Because what the first contact's going to be is generally it's going to be for a bunch of information. And do not sanitize your files. Let them see it all, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. Because if you get caught willfully withholding information, you've now gone from just a civil offense to probably a criminal offense. Am I answering your question, or am I going in the wrong direction?
No, you're answering it, because I've been on the receiving end, and you're right. You don't want to just ignore it and play it off, and don't think that because you've got an LLC that's going to protect you. Those days, as you know, Jeff, are long gone where an LLC provides you unlimited protections. It's not there anymore.
Well, not only, and let me put it to you this way. Don't be that guy like we had a guy in Florida think that his single member LLC was going to protect him from the Federal Trade Commission. And so this guy in Florida blew it off, ended up with creating bad law that's now ricocheted across the United States, where a lot of other states are now looking at it and saying, hey, a federal agency or a state agency can pierce through the limited liability shield of a state agency or a state-sponsored entity such as an LLC. And it's just, don't even start to think to go down that way. You're just going to make bad law. You're just going to make really bad law. So you're right. Do not hide. Do not ignore it. Deal with it. Now, I will, without disclosing the name of some clients, I had a client that runs a nationally recognized business, training, educating, wholesaling, rehabbing, flipping, the whole bit. And he got caught in the state of Ohio saying things that were not correct. And we had to do some mea culpa, you know, my sin, my very grievous sin. We had to change our documentation. We had to change the presentation. And once we did all that, then we got away. Then we were allowed to go as long as we promised to sin no more. And what they're really looking for is stop doing the bad behavior. Stop doing the bad behavior and clean your act up. So if you've done stuff in the past that's, you know, now you realize, hey, I shouldn't have done it. As long as you stop doing it, as long as you're constantly demonstrating, I'm trying to make my business better and more compliant, you're going to go a long way. Because what they really want is compliance. They're concerned about how the consumer and the typical home buyer, home seller is impacted in the marketplace. Clean up your act. It'll go a long way.
I'm muted. All right. Well, we lost Michelle and Dan. When I got kicked off, they got kicked off, but somehow I got back in and they did not.
I'm back.
All
I
right.
made it
back.
Michelle back. Yay. They
They're
were
back.
having trouble. I don't know. Zoom doesn't like people today. So
Yeah.
one of the other questions we're seeing is if I'm going to write a contract, well, I got two here. So if I'm going to write a contract and put an inspection period in it, is that enough to cover my butt, having the weasel clauses in my contract? And then if I can't find a buyer, I can just get out of it because it didn't pass inspection?
I'm so disappointed in that question because that means you didn't listen to things that we talked about.
Intent.
Well,
That means you're buying, that means you're entering into a contract without the intent to perform.
all right. Okay.
That means you're going into that means you're trying to put a property under contract solely for the purpose of making money by connecting a buyer with a seller. Go get your real estate license. It's the best way to cover your butt in that instance.
And then, and this might be actually a question for maybe for Bud, but double closing. We used to be able to do a double closing where there was no actual close. It was closed on paper, but no money changed hands for the wholesaler buying or the wholesaler selling. It went directly from the end buyer to the original seller. No
True
title,
simultaneous close.
yeah, no title companies will do that any longer. But if I were to close at the title company, bring my money in, close, and then sell it within the next hour or so, or the next day or so, and then get my money back, the title companies are willing to do that, correct?
To coin a phrase, in a proverbial New York minute.
All right.
So what I've been teaching since 2007 is that when you do a double closing, they have to be separate, independent, standalone, fully funded, distinct transactions. None of this sees money washing back through to A to B. Title underwriters are specifically telling all of their agents, you cannot do this. So if you do find a title company that will say, oh, well, for you, we'll make an exception, be on the lookout. That title company is probably doing a bunch of other things that are shady and wrong, and they will go under. And then when the people with FBI on their blue jackets show up, guess whose files they're probably going to be interested in? Guess who they're going to come talk to?
Just to clarify that point, Jeff, in our world, you can easily see when the underwriter or whoever's looking asks for the two files. There's a disbursement. There's a disbursement ledger, and there's a receipt,
Right.
And you reference file numbers, and all of a sudden it just leaps out in black and white. Ding, ding, ding. There it is. To compound that, and you're aware of this well, Jeff and Dan both. If you have federally insured funds involved on the back end, you've now crossed the Rubicon, and you get into a whole lot of other issues there. That you know all the buzzwords and all the legalese, initials and everything else, but it gets real hairy then if someone gets in there.
Yep. I've seen people end up with felony convictions because the title companies went out of business and they were doing the deals the wrong way. And it wasn't the title people or the operators that got the convictions. It was one of their highest volume clients that started doing deals. The FBI looked at them, didn't like them, handed it to a prosecutor. The prosecutor said, I don't like this. Doesn't make sense to me. They got to be doing something wrong. Bang. Felony convictions.
So is it legal for on a simultaneous close? Because I've had one that was done, I believe it was last year, and both the seller and the end buyer had to sign off on it, stating that those funds would be used for the B transaction, for the middle transaction, so that way it would be fully funded on both of them.
That used to be an exception, Jim, and I've seen that go away in the last year or so. That used to be done as long as it was a cash, all cash, pure cash end buyer, no federal funds, no bank funds, no line of credit money, just money sitting in a bank account or a mutual fund that was being wired in. I used to see that come through every now and then. Even now, underwriters are going, nope, not anymore.
I haven't seen many simultaneous deals lately. My first 7 or 8 years in the business, it was all simultaneous close,
Yeah.
and it was just most title companies would do it. And then the few started not doing it, but yeah.
And Bud, you're not able to do that anymore either, are you?
We didn't catch that, James.
Well, Bud used to do some of them too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
but
Stuart titled it a bunch.
What? And here's another question, because if we're not going to double close and we have the intent to buy and the ability to buy, and we put it under contract and we assign the contract, I read an article last week from, it wasn't our state bar, it was another state bar, but it was like the president of the state bar advising all attorneys within his state to not close assignments because most of the people didn't have intent to sell. So what do you think, Jeff? Assignments, are they going to go away? While all contracts are assignable by contract law, will title companies stop closing them?
We have watched assignments go away as a matter of law in the state of Illinois.
And we have time
to
do it here too.
We're going to watch that. We're watching them go away in Oklahoma. We're watching them go away in state after state because people are unwilling to learn how to do it right. That's the bottom line. You're unwilling to learn how to do it right. And so then bad behavior just leads to everybody gets punished with fewer ways of buying and selling houses. And I mean, and you can't, if you're going to say, well, Jeff, Illinois was because it's a liberal Democrat run state. And then my response is going to come back and say, you can't say that about Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the exact opposite. But what has happened is the real estate industry, particularly the real estate organizations, the Realtors, the National Association of Realtors, the state associations have just gotten sick and tired of watching homeowners and sellers get robbed, ripped off, and delayed by illegal, dumb, poorly trained, underfunded wholesalers. They're done with it. They're just absolutely done with it. Folks, if you're going to wholesale, the number one thing you need to do is get an education. The second thing you need to do is go get some good private lenders, hard money lenders lined up that will fund your money, fund your deals for 2 to 3 days.
Transactional funding.
Yeah, and you're great.
And to give you some input, if you're a member of MAREI and you log in to MAREIMember.com, we have a basic understanding of wholesale course. So it takes you through A to Z. Jeff is in that course. It's all free videos that we pulled off the internet, off of YouTube, from our top experts that we follow. And we were able to put a whole entire course together, no contracts specifically, but the how-tos are put together And it's all there in one course. So you can log in and you can go all the way through it. It might take you a while to get through all of the training, but it has, you know, how to analyze a deal, how to find a deal, how to market, basically how it all goes together. And if you're looking for hard money lenders or private money lenders, check out the business directory on the website. If you're not here in Kansas City and you're investing in another state, go to your local RIA. That's where you're going to find the private money. Because I don't know, I'm sure Damon and I'm sure everybody here can attest to it. I had a deal that come across my desk, and I was used to doing 30 and 40 and $50,000 deals, and I needed $300,000 Monday. And the guy wanted $10,000 to lend me $300,000 for a week. I borrowed it for a week because I made $100,000 on the deal. But my private money lender, who is actually here at this meeting right now tonight, he made his $10,000 or $20,000, whatever it was he wanted, to lend me money for a week. So the money is there if it's a deal, and you will find it at your local RIA group.
And you know, and I'm gonna make this one comment, and then I feel like I need to be quiet because there's so many people who haven't said enough. Go back and listen to everything that Michelle said, and one of the key things that she said, it's so true. If it is a good deal, it will find the money. You will find the money if you've got a good deal. And I see Jim and Dan nodding their heads. You know,
Jeff, to be clear, if I'm in the middle of a simultaneous transaction, I have to have my own money to put into the escrow to close it.
yes,
Turn around and sell to the next party.
yes. You either have to have your own money or you have to
Or
borrow that
additional.
money.
Right.
It
Or
has
you're
to-
selling, signing a contract.
if you're closing, if you're doing a simultaneous or back-to-back or double closing, whatever language you want to use,
Right.
you have to fund your A to B front end deal. It's that simple.
That makes it simple.
And then I have a question for Damon. So Damon, Dan has talked about, and James as well, using that CRM for follow-up. So how can we use all this technology legally as part of our follow-up?
So click on the link that I know I posted it a couple times, right? And we've got a complete guide there, as well as links to the recordings, all that stuff is there. But the bottom line is this: it's all about proper disclosure. And if you're going to send RVMs or text messages, then you do need prior express written consent. There's really three primary ways to get that. One is to text in a keyword. So I'm actually giving you guys an example tonight of text in the TCPA keyword. And that is one form of getting prior express written consent. Another way is you can send them to your website. And again, having the proper disclosure language on your web form. So they give you the phone number and it tells them very clearly exactly how you're going to use the phone number. So that's getting express written consent. And then finally, the good old fashioned way, you can actually have them sign. Guarantee you, if you guys go to your loan closings and all of that stuff these days, a lot of stuff, quite frankly, if you pay attention, there's almost always a disclosure that says, hey, look, we're going to use automated technology to follow up with you and things of that nature. So that's the three ways to get written consent. And then, of course, you can also disclose it on your advertising as well. But it's a little bit different as well, because there is an assumed intent whenever you're involved in a transaction. So if I'm, for instance, involved in a mortgage and they text me an update on my mortgage or my transaction, then that's a little bit different.
How do we go through, everybody that's already in our CRM and just continue to follow up? And we've touched multiple times over the years. Do we need to start fresh with doing that, or we've already had conversations? There's back and forth.
Mine have an opt out.
Is that a gray area, or?
Well, it depends on, James, what you're trying to do. So if you just say, hey, look, you know what? I've got a list of folks that I went and bought the list. I imported them into my CRM and I've been texting them for years. But literally every text could be a violation, right? So if they didn't opt in, and you don't have proof of that in your CRM, then yes, you you should not be, especially RVMs. RVMs are more dangerous than the text or the calls, to be candid. But it doesn't matter if you've called them before, right? Unless you have prior express written consent. So an existing relationship, and what they basically say, the kind of the rule of thumb is like if it's been longer than 30 days that you've been involved in the transaction or whatever, and you don't have express written consent, then you're probably facing some challenges.
All right.
So if I'm in REI Black Book and I have your 15x3 follow-up system that we implemented last month, should I go in and pause that until I determine who's given me consent and who has not?
So we're helping you do that. So there's typically 2 different 15x3s that we like to implement. One is whenever they text in a keyword or they go to your website. Those, you're golden. We track that. Your CRM should track all of that automatically, which we do for you. So that's handled. The call-ins, you should not use RVM. So if they just called in, you should not use an RVM in that follow-up sequence.
Okay. So I need
RVM, just for the record, guys, stands for ringless voicemail. I keep seeing that popped up. So ringless voicemail. And what distinguishes RVM, what really kind of, is anytime you use a pre-recorded message. And in fact, this is probably really big for a lot of folks cold calling. First of all, if you're cold calling, you have no relationship, you go buy a list, right? You even skip trace them, whatever you do to get their phone number. All right, first and foremost, if you're cold calling, you need to go register with the donotcall.gov, okay? As a marketer, they will give you what's called a SAN number, a subscriber account number. Everyone should do that. If you don't do that and you get caught, that's a big penalty, like $43,000. I mean, it's a massive penalty, okay? So if you're cold calling and texting, they kind of view the same, right? They really do kind of view those the same. But if you're buying a list, at a minimum, you then need, and you can do this as long as you're not using an automated dialer. The Supreme Court just came out on April 1st and basically declared what an auto dialer was considered, because there was a lot of confusion. And systems like REI Black Book are not considered an automated dialer. An automated dialer just dials the numbers either sequentially or randomly, right? So the fact that we store your numbers, you upload the numbers, or they call in and we capture the numbers, that's not considered an automated dialer. So you can use REI Black Book to send out text messages. You can use REI Black Book to call, right? You can do all those things, but you still need to scrub the do not call list. So remember, there's 241 million registrants, active registrants on the do not call list. So quite frankly, if you're just being compliant with that, then your pool just shrank dramatically.
So should we take all of these random texts we're getting on our phone? I've been getting them all week through 3 of my different sites that are not investors, by the way. This is people trying to sell me insurance. Can I send them to your training to make them stop texting me?
I will tell you that's part of the Traced Act. They're supposed to make it easier for consumers, and we're all consumers on the call. We all know how annoying this is. They're supposed to make it easier for us to submit and report all of those bad actors. And the statute of limitations, the law is passed. So bad acts today could bust you 4 years, up to 4 years down the road.
So if I take all these texts and turn them in, are they just the government's gonna get money out of them with fines, or can I get money out of them on fines?
You can get damages. In fact, there are specific Facebook groups, there are attorneys that is all they do is they go after this TCPA type litigation. And yes, you can certainly get paid.
So wholesalers, there's your alternative business, is you go after all the random people that are texting you and ringless voicemailing you, and you can turn them in, and maybe you can make some money off of them with all these attorneys that want to follow these lawsuits. It seems like a new industry, Jeff, for attorneys.
It's been around for a while. It got its wings clipped with that Supreme Court decision, the Facebook case that Damon was talking about. But there's other ways that decision didn't change the law, and people are still breaking it. I am so grateful that we did see the definition that we did see of an auto dialer. that the word or is not implied there. Instead, it's the word and. Yes, a case went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court involving Facebook over the word and or the word or. Yep, that's the way we lawyers are. And fortunately, it came out the right way. And it was a 9-0 decision. And I want to put this on public record because it's being recorded. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote a fantastic decision. I took the time to read it. Well written, well thought out, well reasoned decision. Yay for her.
And this was a question from Bruce last week, Damon. So we've got all these laws, and we know that all the rules and regulations were never enforced. Nothing really happened. Big deal. There's a do not call list. I'm on it with all my phone numbers, and I get called regularly. So you told us a little bit about how it's now going to be enforced, but it's not that. I don't think it's the fines that's going to enforce it. I think it's the fact that they're going to cut you off if you're letting your people use it incorrectly. So tell me a bit about that.
So basically what they're doing, the phone systems, the carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, right? It's essentially they're creating two networks, right? They're going to basically say, hey, look, all of the network traffic that's coming from all what they call A2P application, like i.e. REI Black Book to person. So A2P, they're basically going to take all of that traffic and put it on a separate network. Now, all of our text from our phones and everything else, they track that. They know, AT&T knows that I'm sending a text message from my phone and from the phone number on their network. They know that. So that's not what we're talking about here. So the text messages from your phone and everything else are still going to work, okay? But all of this other automated stuff and A2P, they're basically going to say, hey, look, we're going to create a separate network, and every phone number. So every phone number that like an REI Black Book gives you, or a Call Rail, or a Ring Central, or all of these other phone systems, right? Those are going to have to be registered to you. So to every business, you're going to have to register each one of your phone numbers and your campaigns. And so that's what's going to control it. So now AT&T is going to say, okay, here's the phone number. This phone number is assigned to Kim Tucker. Kim, you need to give us an example of the campaigns that you're going to send. And now they can monitor that and track that. And they will throttle it. They're going to give you a trust score, very similar to a credit score, that says based upon your industry, based upon your campaign, based upon these things, we are going to now determine how many text messages you can send in a day. So it should, from that, again, they're implementing this technology now. That's why you're not seeing all of these changes just yet. But once that happens, I think that you're going to see a dramatic difference. Now, remember, you can still text from the cell phone, but again, texting from a cell phone is easily trackable as well, right? And obviously not at scale either. So that's really what's happening right here. They're creating a separate network saying, hey, look, if you're manually texting from your cell phone, that's gonna not be really impacted. But if you're using all these software programs, REI Black Book, FreedomSoft, Call Rail, Ring Central, all these voice over IP type software, that is going to be absolutely, you're gonna have to register it and it's gonna track back to you. And we should see a slowdown. I don't think it's gonna go away for a while. And I think you're gonna have to probably see some bad actors still being punished. But I do believe it's at least a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
And one last question: who is exempt from these laws? Because they're asking, can politicians do this? Are they exempt, or who's exempt?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys could imagine that the politicians exempted themselves from all the political messaging, right? So that they are exempt. There are some exemptions for nonprofits. There's different rules, if you will, and schools and stuff like that are going to be medical are going to be exempt.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we are right at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to save the questions and I'm going to go back through them in the morning. And if there's one we missed, we will make sure everybody gets I get an answer to it so that we can share that with everybody. But I want to thank everybody for their input, even our people we lost. I lost Dan and Michelle again. I think Zoom is having fun kicking people in and out tonight. So, but thanks, guys. Any last words, James?
I just was going to ask Damon about the do not call list. Like how would one scrub that? Because that was something that we were discussing.
Yeah. So first and foremost, go to donotcall.gov. There's a marketing button, and we actually have a step-by-step guide in the link, the marei.org/TSPA. If you follow that, it'll walk you through how to register for the do not call list. You can get 5 county or 5 area codes for free. Okay, so it doesn't cost you anything to register, and you can get 5 area codes for free. You can download that list. It's just going to be a list of phone numbers, and all of those numbers you then need to ultimately scrub. Now, there's tons of different software. Frankly, we're going to do this inside of Profit Drive. On my side, that's one of the things that we're building. So you import the do not call list, and it just flags it red so that you know it's on the do not call list. That's one of the things that we're working on right now. But there are software out there. You're not going to be able to build like an Excel spreadsheet or anything, because once you download all the area codes, I just tested this in St. Louis, and it was like something like 1 million numbers or something. So it's too big for Excel. So you could probably go to Fiverr or Upwork or something like that. Probably spend $300, $400, $500, and a programmer developer could build you a tool that because there's a couple things you need to do. They literally could install it on your desktop. It could be a website that you own control. You'll upload the state do not call list, the federal do not call list, and then you need to maintain your own do not call list. So if they tell you to remove you from the list, you need to also add that. So all of that's the responsibility of you to prove that that's what you're doing. Okay. So if you're not using a tool that already does it, you could easily go. I bet you could get it done for less than $500, one-time fee, and manage that for yourself.
All right.
Any last words, Jeff?
Have a great evening, and thank you for everybody for participating. And it's an honor to be here and share and learn.
Excellent. And Damon, any last words?
Nope, Kim, I just want to say thank you for putting this on. I think it's needed. And, absolutely. I love listening to Jeff, wealth and knowledge and coming from an authority perspective. And I think the ship has sailed. I think we got too many bad actors in the space. So I think that we're headed for change no matter what, which is, be ready and probably going to have to get licensed.
All right, Michelle, any last words?
Sorry, I was in and out, but it was a great topic. Very, very good. Glad that we were able to participate, and thanks everybody.
All right. And we have completely lost Dan. It won't let him back in. So I have no last words from Dan. We'll have to hook up with him on Facebook in the morning and ask him any more questions. So everybody, thanks so much. This has been the best attended meeting this year on Zoom. And we've never made it till 9 o'clock with this many people before. So great.
Does that mean I still have the record?
Well, you still have the record for attendance, but that was a live in-person meeting.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I think it was all Brian. I don't know. No, you guys, everybody has great information. We are always well attended when Jeff is at the meeting. And I know Damon had a great meeting in June last year too. So this was just a little bit more hotter topic because everybody's afraid of going to jail.
As they should be.
As they should be.
All right, everybody. See people asking how to save the chat. You can hit at the bottom right-hand corner of your chat. You should see 3 dots. Please save that. I've asked Holly to save for me and send it to me. I'm not sure how well Zoom records when it kicks me out. So hopefully the recording worked properly. If not, well, we've gotten most of it, but I'm going to have to see if it recorded after kicking me out. We'll see how that works. So thanks, everybody. And I will see you Roundtable Friday and at the MAREI meeting in June.
Peace, y'all.
All right. Thanks, Kim.